Uh, Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of Law Relay, an initiative by GNLU Center for Sports and Entertainment Law, where we bring in the best minds in sports law and policy. And today we have the managing partner of Krida Legal and member of the Election Oversight Committee of the World Athletics, Mr. Vidushpat Singhania. Thank you, Mr. Singhania, for joining us. How are you doing? How was COVID treating you?
Thank you, Tarun, for having me, and thank you, GNLU, for conducting such a wonderful initiative. It'll really help. It really helps us as well as helps the students and anybody who wants to get into the aspect of sports law and policy discussions on it.
Yeah,
It's not a discussion which has to be monopolized, has to be there everywhere.
that's
All people who can contribute should.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for having me. And
And yeah, and
COVID,
COVID, yeah,
COVID, I
COVID.
think is a variable I think which all of us are really dealing with. Uh, it's just a thing. The offices, I think we're all learning to work from home, and I'm realizing as a part of it that we have become more efficient.
Okay.
Meetings, if we are teams meeting, like normally I would go, you get delayed, your clients are coming delayed, or you reaching a place delayed, and meetings are taking time, the chai, coffee, and everything. Here, every meeting is scheduled on your calendar, starts on time, ends on time. There's no chai pani discussion, and the thing everybody starts within the 5 minutes. So it's becoming more efficient. Even my team members, there's no chit chat really happening. Everybody's at home, so documents keep coming in, review keeps happening. We keep discussing it on Teams.
Are you
Um,
are you a
so
hard task master, Vidushpat sir?
I think that my team probably once your discussions are going on, when you can ask them this question, I don't know whether I am or not. I hope I'm not.
But sometimes it's important to do it. I think it's a setup where it's professional in nature. I think one has to do it. Yeah, and a huge shout out first of all to you for accepting the invitation of coming to this webinar and specifically wearing the Liverpool jersey. And I'll tell you why I asked you to wear it.
I'm
Of course,
always happy to wear a Liverpool jersey whenever I get time. Don't
but,
worry.
but the next thing that I'll remind you of is not going to make you happy. I want to remind you of this date, which was 27th of May 2018, and something happened in Real Madrid versus Liverpool. Can you, for the audiences, can you again tell me the score line? Because I'm a die-hard Real Madrid fan.
Yeah.
It's a
Real Madrid cheated and won the Champions League.
why is it?
Clear,
Why is
clear foul on Mohamed Salah, and there should have been a red card. So
it
yeah,
wasn't?
Real Madrid won through cheating. I agree.
But what was the score?
3
Let's just have the score again.
3-1.
Perfect. That thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging that. But did you play football when you were a kid or when you were in college or school?
Yeah, yeah. So played for a lot of football in school. I was not good enough to be on the school team, but I used to be in the house team always.
Yeah.
Even played football for college as well. So
You were
it's
also
not
the
that I'm.
president of the
Sorry.
sports committee, I think, of your college.
Yes, so I used to play football. I captained the college cricket side for 5 years throughout from first year till the end of the year of my term. I captained the college cricket side.
Yeah.
I was also in a part of the table tennis team. So we were university bronze medalist in I think. Besides, I was a state player, table tennis state player in Rajasthan for when I was in school.
Okay.
But we were also Bombay University medalist.
Oh, perfect.
So I think I did
So,
okay in table tennis as well.
so you never thought of becoming a player or to
No,
take
I
action?
was never good, never that good.
Okay.
I was good enough for hobbies, so I realized I still wanted to pursue my hobby in sports,
Yep.
but I wanted to be in the legal profession, and therefore I'm a sports lawyer because I said, let's mingle those up. Then I read about it, and I said, yeah, this sounds interesting. I'm talking way back in 2005, 6, where there was nothing there.
Yeah,
That is the
that's
time when you say, okay, fine, sounds interesting. Let me read and let me look more about it. Liked it. Then I did my course in South Africa, Pretoria. Then I did a internship in The Hague.
yeah.
Then I did, master's course. I was also working for Commonwealth Games. So it's always a part of the plan, but it started in 2004, 5, something like that. When
And
I said, okay, this
what was
looks
this?
interesting.
What was this one thing which really motivated you that this is the area I want to really go in and do
You,
something about it?
it's actually started off for a research for my mom, and it was
Oh,
not regarding sports law. It was regarding something on art law.
Okay.
So, something regarding that, it started, and, then only say, okay, why not, and something then came up on sports law, and I say, oh, this sounds interesting. And this is, I'm talking about 2004, 5, when there was nothing, no like sports law in India. There was no commercial leagues happening in India, nothing on, there was no like vision on that line, in India at
Perfect.
least. So
Yeah.
then you'll start looking up, and then I saw these courses, and I said, okay, let me read about it. So I read a lot about it. Then I said, I think I want to explore this, and then you start doing your online courses. I went to Pretoria, and then I think it just picked up from there.
Tell me about your whole, this whole setup with De Montfort. You studied there, and a lot of people ask me because also I'm also studying there now. Can you just
So
share?
Yeah, so Demon was more of a remote learning rather than actually physical. I did go for some sessions there, but it was more on the
Okay.
remote learning front. Why I got at that time, it was not so much remote learning, but I got those exemption because I was the lawyer for the Commonwealth Games at that point of time,
Oh,
and I had
perfect.
an English solicitor who was actually guiding me. So I actually took a letter from him as well, and I wrote back that I'm working with him and the Commonwealth Games, and they responded back saying that yes, if you are actually working in the sports sector and everything, then we are so happy that you don't come for these sessions. You can do it. You can do it more of the sessions remotely, and you don't have to come regularly here.
That's right.
So that was the exemption that they gave me because I was a part of the legal team, anyways, the Commonwealth Games, and under an English solicitor at that point in time.
Yeah. And you just mentioned about, you were associated with Commonwealth Games as the law officer, and also you were on the IPL Pro Committee, which is the Mudgal Committee. Which brings me to, the basic question, Vidushpat sir, about sports governance in India, which is, always targeted because of these two, three issues which has happened recently or have been happening for quite some time. As a lawyer, I'll start not as a lawyer, actually as a layman. When you started reading about all of this, uh, what are these two, three major issues in the governance system of this country, and why is it coming every time? In the debate, or it's argued all the time.
Sure. So let's start with the Commonwealth game because that's prior in time. So,
Yeah,
the Commonwealth Games was one of the first major sporting events happening in India in the last past decade or so.
true.
So, at that point of time, there was a lot of enthusiasm, and obviously the sports structure was set with Mr. Kalmadi as the president and Banerjee as the secretary general at that point of time. So, and that till that point of time, while there was issues and discussions on sports governance, they had never taken the limelight or had gathered the public, fora in this sense that it gathered subsequently. So at that point of time, they started it. There was a Commonwealth Games organizing committee that was made, which was basically controlled by the IOA. What was interesting is while the administration was with the IOA, the government, in order to host a major game, has to guarantee the funds and has to loan that amount. And
True.
the perception was that Commonwealth Games, and the perception that was given out, that the Commonwealth Games will be a revenue neutral game. But it did
Yeah,
not turn out to be because the cost kept escalating. There was no revenue, real revenue coming in into the games, and the government had to step in because the costs were really getting escalated beyond certain threshold of the budget that was set and
yeah,
really exceeding by a large margin. So the government had to step in, and when they stepped in, there was a Shunglu committee set up after the
yeah,
games, and even during the games, there were various stings and everything that came up. So a lot of anomalies pertaining to contract awarding as well as contract values came up, as well as stringent provisions that were there that they had to be the in RFPs and tenders. There were certain stipulations that where only certain few people qualified.
that's
That
right.
escalated the cost. The government said that this cannot be the case going forward because the government also wants to build up on sports, wants to build up on having major events in India and taking the Indian sports forward. So they said that
True.
we need to put certain checks and balances in place. At that point of time, they could not because the games were in there. The Indian reputation was in online. So that point of time, there were only limited checks and balances. But you see, the sports code came in immediately after that.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that is the reason because I think when they interacted more with the IOA and with the Commonwealth administration, they realized that there are certain governance norms that need to be put in place for future events and for the future of sports. So
Yeah,
that is I think where the whole thing started from.
yeah,
Uh, I think then we had the sports bill also of 2011, which was again revised in 2013.
that's
So
right.
they were actually taking into account a large part of the sports code and then trying to bring it into a very structured because sports code is really a compilation of all the other earlier executive orders really coming together, and it's like about 180 200 pages. So then
True.
the government felt that, maybe we need to streamline it a bit more, make it more stringent provisions so that it can be followed. And the second thing that the government then highlighted is, a code is only a guideline, and that till I'm talking about 2010 and
Okay.
2011 when there was no court decisions on it, right? So you have
That's
to
right.
also understand how this has come about. So till 2011, there was only a code, it was only a guideline. The federations and the National Olympic Committee, which is IOA, only had the right to follow it or not follow it. It was voluntary in nature. So therefore, IOA and the BCCI, everybody objected to it even at that point of time.
Yeah.
Uh, so therefore, the government said maybe a statutory backing is needed. So that time, Mr. Ajay Makinji was the sports minister.
Yeah.
Mr. Injeti Srinivas, who then turned out to be the secretary and now is the corporate Ministry of Corporate Affairs secretary and retiring soon. He was
Mm.
the joint secretary at that point of time.
Okay.
Sindhushri Khullar ma'am, who was the secretary of sports at that point of time. So it was a good team. You know, they started looking at it. They made the first code, which was helped in making as well, the sports code of 2011. Then we came on to the sports bill. And obviously, there were once the bill was made, there was a whole large-scale discussions that happened and large-scale objections to it. Because the large-scale objections came in, it was decided that maybe we need to look back into the bill as well
Yeah.
uh, and amend it. So therefore, they took about a year or so to look back, look into all the objections that had come in, amend it, and then the 2013 bill came into the picture.
Yeah.
Again, there was a wide-scale discussion that took place in 2013 bill as well. That was under Justice Mudgal committee. Both of them, I was also a part of it. So those discussion took place, and after that, it actually went for intergovernmental consultation as well. So a bill once it made, it goes, it is sent or circulated amongst the various department of the government.
Yeah.
There also inputs also came in, and after taking those into account, there was amendments made, and it was taken to the cabinet. Unfortunately, it is covered well in the media, so I don't have to really say that it faced a lot of uh,
Brunt.
brunt, and it was decided that it needs to be shelved. So after that, it just got shelved.
Why? And this is something, which brings me to a very important question. Being a sports fan and somebody who plays sports and follows sports, why is it that a lot of sports bill, I'll say all of the sports bill which have come in, in the Indian context, they've never seen, their implementation has never happened. Why do you think that happens generally at the parliament level? What is the
So I
reason?
think so. There are sports bill. If we talk about, let's differentiate between the government bill and the private member bills,
Yeah. Perfect.
right? Because 2013 bill is the only bill that has actually been made by the government, which has actually taken up the one step to the cabinet
That's true.
for approval. Besides that, the two or three other bills that I can think of, which I know of, is one is the bill that was promulgated or which was proposed by Mr. Anurag Thakurji.
Yeah.
One is the bill which was proposed by Mr. KTS Tulsiji, and then one is the bill which is proposed by Mr. Shashi Tharoorji. These
That's
are the
right.
three that I am aware of. There might be more, but at least these are things that I am aware of. They were all private member bills. Private member bills, most of the time they don't get up taken up for discussion itself, which has happened with all three of them
Agreed.
really.
That's
Right,
right.
and even the success rate from what I know of a private member bill, which I think that I read at the PRS, is about 0.5%.
Yeah. That's right.
Right,
That's right. I
so
also.
you have to demarcate that. So we can't say that a private member bill has that high chance of succeeding like a
Okay.
government bill. So
Okay.
that's the demarcation.
Okay.
Second is the other things are the policies that are in place.
Yeah.
Now the sports code is being upheld by the Delhi High Court in a single judge bench and a double judge bench as well.
Yeah.
So there is some sanctity to the sports code, and it has largely been imposed, and it's been accepted that all the federations have to obey it. While the sports code has been appealed by the Indian Olympic Association in the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
but by and large, everybody is obeying it. Yes, when the new code comes in, there were new objections because they got a new opportunity to put forward their objections.
That's right.
So, and it is rightfully their place. They are a body, or they are the penultimate body governing sports. So they will put their objections. This is their very much their right. We in the end in a democracy, they have a right to put forward their objections, and they have to be considered.
Yeah.
What has to be accepted, what has not, in the end, it's a call of the government, which has to be in consultation with the sports stakeholders.
That's right.
So even the 2011 bill or the 2013 bill was always with the consultation of the sports stakeholders. In fact, Batra ji was also a part of it. I think BVP Rao ji was also a part of it. Abhinav
Okay.
Vindra was a part of it. Ashwini Nachappa was a part of it. So it has people from all aspects of sports that were a part of it. So objections will come in the end. I think if you are going to step on toes of somebody, then they will object and they will vociferously object to it.
Yeah.
That is but and natural about it. But if we can come out to a understanding that these are the minimal standards that have to be obeyed, it
Yeah.
would be good for the sports because the governance improves. If governance improves, more and more stakeholders decide to push in, be involved with it, and push in their money into it, and that always benefits sports.
Yeah. One thing that you just mentioned, when you were talking about the 2010 Commonwealth Games, that it was the first mega, one of its kind mega event which came to India after so long. I think after the Asian Games, I don't think so. Something like that had ever come in India, and India got an opportunity to host it. Uh, just on the socio-economic aspect of it, especially the economic aspect of it, do you think a setup like India is ready for these huge events? Because a lot of issues come in apart from the legal aspects of it, the economics behind it.
So, Tarun, I think there's another aspect that you need to consider. The
Yeah.
whole perception also has changed
Okay.
in the sense for major events.
Mhm.
So now, till the Commonwealth Game times, it was like major infrastructure needs to be built afresh.
Yeah.
And till that time, India did not have the infrastructure. If you talk about 2007-8, right?
Yeah.
India did not have the infrastructure for a major event. But now, if you see, we already have the infrastructure in place. Some benefit to the Commonwealth Game. We should not abuse. This is something that my personal view is, right? There were positives out of Commonwealth Games, and there were negatives.
But when you
Uh,
balance them, don't you think the negatives are a little higher on the higher
No,
platform?
I think negatives got highlighted a bit very much more because negatives get you that publicity and get you that whole rancor happening at the media level and the public level.
That's true.
Positives just get pushed behind.
Yeah.
Now there are so many stadiums that have been developed. There are so many infrastructure facilities that have been developed in Delhi specifically.
True.
There are so many training grounds that were developed not only in Delhi but outside as well.
Yeah.
And we are the sports is taking the benefit of it because if you had to take that budget and get it approved, the budget of sports ministry is very small,
That's
and
right.
that has not been increasing. Now you got that whole infusion of the sports budget based
Yeah.
on which you could develop the infrastructure, which we are all using, and we are the hidden value is getting used on an ongoing basis.
Mm.
Now nobody is talking about that. Everybody is only talking about the negative.
That's
The positive values are still getting used to this point of time. So it's not that it was like just loss making or something. The
yeah.
values to the sports system has come in, but
Yeah.
obviously there were certain anomalies which I highlighted earlier as well, which should not have been there, which could have been improved with a proper governance system and a proper contract compliances and contracts checking system. So that
Yeah.
you have to correct. Where is due, where there was a lacuna that has to be corrected, but where there is positive that needs to be highlighted a bit more.
Yeah, because all of this is very important as the under 17 Women's World Cup is coming to India, and we're looking forward for a lot of mega events, in the
Correct. So,
future.
like the under 17 football World Cup happened, and
Yeah.
you see, there was no new infrastructure that was really built. All the
Yeah.
old infrastructure that was there existing from the Commonwealth Games was revamped and cleaned up, and everything that was used. Even your Nehru Cup or the other your SAF Cups and everything that have happened, they've happened because of the existing infrastructure that was there in place,
Yeah.
which was all coming back from the Commonwealth Games time.
Yeah.
If that would not have been placed, you would have to make those. So you
Yeah.
save this cost because you had the infrastructure in place.
Yeah. You're also a part of the regulatory commission, I think, of the Indian Super League. Which is your
Yes.
favorite? Do you follow ISL? Which is your favorite
I
team?
follow ISL, but I cannot have a team because in the end, favorite team because in the end, disputes come to me and I can't have a favorite at that point of time. So I would prefer not to have a favorite.
Can you shed some light on the disputes that have come up to you regarding any thing that you remember?
So, obviously, I can only talk about things that are there in the public fora. There are certain
Yeah,
disputes which were not published,
absolutely.
rightful reasons.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like the FC Goa dispute came into the foray and it was really highlighted a lot. It's a tough call to take because in football, when emotions are high, sometimes you get swayed by the emotions and act in a particular manner. But while you may get swayed and act in a particular manner, the whole reputation of the league, as well as the reputation of the tournament and the other participants also have to be respected because they have also put in the money and the time and the effort into the league. So
That's right.
that is, I think, a balance that we as a regulatory commission had to take when this dispute had come up. And obviously there were debates and everything. And in the end, I think they took a decision which our regulatory commission took a decision which was appealed.
Yeah.
And while the merits of the decision were upheld, I think the punishments were reduced.
Yeah. The punishment was reduced.
So which I also agree with, but maybe we went a bit far ahead.
Okay.
But I think the merit of the decision was upheld, which was actually good to know. And I think the FC Goa also took the appeal decision and didn't appeal further. And they said, yes, okay, fine, we're accepting it. So that was,
Okay.
I think, in the end, it takes time. And I think you'll understand as a lawyer as well,
Yeah.
you know, when a dispute comes up upfront, the emotions are running high. We will dispute it, we'll fight it out. And then
Mm.
slowly, sometimes sense prevails, and they said,
Yeah.
okay, fine. I think there is something in it. There is a merit in what is being said as well on the other side. Let's settle this. I think we can accept the decision and let this simmer down. So,
Yeah.
I think that's a process of litigation which happens in court, and that is what we saw in this dispute as well.
That's right. Talking about emotions, and one of the biggest, you know, a backlash on the emotions of Indian fans was the IAPL, the whole probe committee which happened, and you were a part of it. Uh,
As a
Tell us.
secretary to the IPL Pro Committee, yes.
Actually, you're the secretary of the IPL probe committee. Tell us something about that, Vidushpat sir. What happened? You were with Justice Mudgal. Tell us something about Justice Mudgal. I think you're very few lucky people who have worked with him, and I've heard
So,
good things
no,
about him.
so,
I don't
so
know him.
he is brilliant. I think more than anything, he's a brilliant human being, and that
Okay.
is, I think, the most important thing that you can say about a person.
Yeah.
There are people who can be fabulous in their field, who can be brains, and we know everything about a particular field, but they not be good human beings. So, what I think we can say about Mr. Mudgal is a brilliant human being. Right. So that is something that I can say. Second thing I can say is, Sir has a fleeting sense of anger. So you have to wait for that. Say he will have that anger for 1 or 2 minutes. Listen to him, and then he will listen to you. And he has the humility to listen to everybody, hear everybody's point of view, and then come with his own decision. So
Did you get
that is,
Did you get some bashing from him?
of course, I've worked with him for the last 12 years. So I think in 12 years everything cannot be hunky dory.
You have written two books with him as well, like one book,
Two
two.
books, yes, two books. Yeah, two editions of the book. First edition came out in 2010. Then the second edition was in 2000. I don't know, 2016. Yes,
Yeah.
and hopefully there will be a third edition and more editions to it. But yes, so my association with this has been from 2008 onwards.
Mm.
So it's been a long, long time. So as I said, brilliant human being, has the humility to listen to everybody, and especially during the IPL time, I think everybody was under pressure because the entire country was looking at you. The media pressure was there. The pressure from and there are factions. So there was one faction which was pressurizing that everything is correct. There was one faction which is saying everything is incorrect. Trying to separate the wheat from the chaff, and really coming to what is the actual fact and what is backed by evidence. And what happens is, and one of the biggest issues that we faced is, by the time we started the investigation and by the time we were in the meat of the investigation, a lot of the data and a lot of the issue data was not available. It was lost because, say, the CCTV camera footage was deleted because only there for 3 months, 6 months, things like that. So
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest inhibition that we faced while we were investigating. And hopefully in the future, when somebody is investigating, at least those details are available, because investigation starts in time and concludes in time. That will not happen. And this investigation, it went through a process, because first there was a BCCI investigation that took place, then that
Yeah.
was challenged in the Bombay High Court,
Yeah.
and then by the time the Bombay High Court decision came, then that got challenged in the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court formed its committee. So there's a whole lot of difference of time between the 2013-14 event, or 2011-12 event, and when by the time these committees came into place.
That's right.
So a lot of things were lost in translation and in evidence. So hopefully those things don't get lost in the future.
Yeah.
But as we said, I think what I can say is, the BCCI itself was very cooperative in the investigation. They did provide all the facilities to us and helped us through in providing the documents. Unlike what a lot of people say, that they were very, media perception that was created. I don't think that was correct. They
Yeah.
did help a lot. Even if all the people that interacted with us came forward and interacted. Obviously, they had to interact within their legal
True.
folds and only remit back whatever they had to say. So that was their purview of what they had to say, and it was our purview of finding what had to be done and give our findings. So I think that overall uh, we were satisfied. There was a whole investigation report as well, which was a large investigation report, which was of BB Mishra sir.
Yeah.
That is still with the Supreme Court, that is still lying sealed there. So at
Yeah.
some point of time and someday that will also come out. So let's see what happens there.
So for all our viewers, I want to tell that the IPL report and the two books written by Mr. Singhania with Justice Mudgal are a compulsory reading. So do read it whenever you get a hold of it. It's a brilliant book. It has everything you want to know about sports law. It's very easy, it's very reader friendly. So do read it whenever you get the opportunity.